Ultimate Spider-Man number 15 swings into action from Marvel Comics on March 26, 2025, and this time it unleashes a sandy shock. Will Spidey's Desert Clash boost or bust the score? Let's find out in 3, 2, 1. You know, after first reading through Ultimate Spider-Man number 15, I get a little bit of a strange reaction. Spidey's swinging into action in the desert, and he's doing it alongside his son, Richard, who is sort of turning out to be a ultimate version of Spider-Boy, I guess. But could this issue really shake off the slow burn and give us a win for a series that's largely been slow on pace and action and plot? Well, I like the vibe of this issue, but the setup is really shaky. So let's break it down for you. Let's start with the pros and what's great about Ultimate Spider-Man number 15. Jonathan Hickman nails those little moments. That's really his forte and his strength. Peter and MJ bonding together as a married couple, Peter and Richard talking together as father and son. It's heartfelt stuff that carries the issue. Now I want you to picture this. Peter's sipping coffee with MJ under a desert sunrise, trading quiet smiles that say more than their words. Or later on in the desert, Peter is coaching Richard about the use of his AI suit, laying out the rules like whose lives you save first, and if it's a choice between Peter and Richard, which one should the suit favor? It's tender, grounded, and pure, soulful stuff that you love about the relationship. Now, is all that enough to make a positive impact on the score? It's a big plus, that's for sure, and Hickman's knack for family beats could lift this past the early issues dinner party type slump or Christmas party type slump. Even when the plot's thin, these scenes pack an emotional punch that keeps you rooting for the Parkers. And that brings us to what's not great about Ultimate Spider-Man number 15. Here's the thing. This should be a big deal issue because it introduces the ultimate version of Sandman, but in this case, the introduction feels really half-baked. I mean, painfully so. His origin's a rushed mess, trapped by AIM for 3 years? Okay, sure, but why is there no meat to this introduction? He's just a guy who snuck into a military base just because he was curious. You don't get a name from him, so it could be Flint Marko, maybe not, we don't know. He's literally never named in the issue. The backstory is just an experiment gone wrong, but there's no context for why AIM would use this guy for an experiment in the first place. Compare that to Kraven's Wild Hunt last issue. This feels like a footnote. The trap's logic flops too. Why is a tower zapping him into sand loops? I mean, I guess it's to keep him trapped, but why did they go to that trouble in the first place? Hickman barely explains why anything is happening, and it's over so fast you wonder if it even mattered. How does this impact the score? This could drag it down hard because readers want a villain with grit, with substance, with believability, not some kind of throwaway cameo. Let's switch gears and talk about the art for a second. We have David Messina on the title, and he's stepping in for main artist Marco Cicchetto, and overall, it looks gorgeous. The character designs are pretty crisp, and Messina keeps the style of the way the characters are rendered pretty close to Cicchetto's version of these characters, particularly for Richard and Peter Parker. The stunning desert views are just that stunning, and you get, even though it's brief, you do get a pretty decent Sandman fight. How does that affect the score? Obviously, this is going to be a positive for the score because the art looks pretty darn good. Even though it's not Cicchetto and it's pretty close, but it's not the same. Overall, the art is a net positive. To provide some context, let's give a quick recap what happened in issue number 14. Peter and Harry were dodging Kraven in the Savage Lands located in these subterranean caverns beneath New York City. It's filled with jungle life, all kinds of dinosaurs, and all kinds of deadly traps. Mole-Man and Mysterio lend Peter and Harry a hand to try and escape Kraven for their own subtle, maybe back-end purposes that we don't quite know about, but Kraven did catch up, and Harry died in the final fight. When Peter eventually escaped and made it back to the surface world, he grabbed MJ and they said, "We gotta run." Meanwhile, while all that fighting and hunting was happening, Richard was tooling around in New York City in the black AI Picotech suit to kind of pretend that Spider-Man was still in play, and his paths crossed with Felicia Hardy, and the two of them sort of bonded a little bit, maybe romantically. And if you want the scoop on what happened in issue number 15, here we are. The Parkers are relaxing in a trailer park, basically, in the American Southwest. No location is specific, but you can tell that they're in the desert. They're in a trailer park filled with folks who are UFO nuts, doomsday preppers, people just trying to get off the grid, and everybody you can imagine. But they're all pretty friendly. They're sharing coffee, and they're just relaxing and enjoying the scenery. Peter's coaching Richard on the AI suit, going over combat, defense tactics, and more importantly, the rules about saving lives. In particular, Peter tells the AI if there's a choice between saving Peter or Richard, always save Richard first. Then they poke around an old military base a little bit later because they hear weird rumors about strange noises and people disappearing. When they get on base, both dressed in their spider suits, a giant sand monster ambushes them, and it's Ultimate Sandman. Peter is grabbed up, and the monster's trying to use Peter's body to destroy this Wardenclyffe tower that's something out of a Tesla experiment. The automated pulses coming from the tower will periodically zap the Sandman and dissipate him. So it appears he's stuck in this loop where he can't fully form because the machine keeps dissipating him. Richard sneaks up to the machine and shuts it down using the help of the Picotech suit and allows the guy to fully form. It turns out, after they talk to him for a very, very brief period of time, he's been stuck in that loop of dissolution for about 3 years. And the reason he got into that state is because he was just a guy who was curious about what was going on in the base, snuck in, and he was grabbed by AIM scientists. Those villains used him for an experiment, and they just left him there when they eventually decided to abandon the base. Meanwhile, and this is how the issue ends, Kingpin shows up with Wesley and his enforcers at the paper, and they flash J. Jonah and Ben a series of photos of dead men, and when they ask what's this about, they say this is every man on the planet named Ben Reilly. It's a form of very not so subtle intimidation to tell them to make sure they stay out of the Kingpin's business. So final thoughts, what do we think about Ultimate Spider-Man number 15? It swings into action with a new Sandman and a lot of family heart. The art is stunning and there are certain moments that shine, but Sandman's introduction really feels like it was shoehorned in and kind of flops. So hats off to Jonathan Hickman for actually including some Spider-Man action, but it really doesn't feel like he's got his heart into it. Therefore, Ultimate Spider-Man number 15 from Marvel Comics earns a 6.8 out of 10. Leave a thumbs up if you found this review helpful, and tell me in the comments below, how would you choose to introduce the Ultimate Sandman in this universe if not in the way it was done here? I think there are much better ways it could have been done, but if you've got some ideas, I want to hear about it below. So, thank you very much for joining, and stay tuned through the outro for more reviews just like this one.